Hi and welcome or welcome back. My name is Tita and I am a knitter, knitwear designer and the owner of the yarn shop Yarn for All on Etsy. And this is my rather irregular bi-weekly knitting podcast. And although I haven't filmed in like 4 weeks right now, I'm gonna try to keep this knitting podcast for every 2 weeks. It's just been a lot going on and I actually didn't have that much time to knit in the past 4 weeks, so there wasn't actually that much to show or as much as I really wanted to, but since 4 weeks passed from my last knitting podcast, today I actually have a finished object and I have a yarn and a pattern acquisition. So at least I made some progress on some of my projects, and I also have a new cast on, which is kind of new but not so new. So yeah, let's I guess start with my finished object, which is what I'm wearing right now. This is Camisole No.9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. And I used, I think it was one of the recommended yarns. It is the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. This is the colorway Soft Blue, which is probably coming off really gray right now, but it is actually gray, but gray with a tiny bit of blue undertone, which is probably hard to pick up on the camera. Let's just say this is Knitting for Olive in a ice blue version, and this is potty. So I don't know if you can kind of see how blue this gray really is, but you have to trust me that it has a hint of blue in it, although it is really gray. I started this camisole a few weeks ago, but when I first showed this on my podcast, I already said that I am actually making 3 pieces of it. Mine is using color soft blue. My sister, camisole No.9, will be using potty, and my cousin's camisole No.9 will be made of wheat. So we have 3 beautiful colors, like all sort of neutral colors for the 3 of us to match. So I finished mine, and it's actually unblocked, so you kind of can see that it's a little bit tight in the shoulders. I made size number 2, and I made kind of 2, actually 1 modification. I think it calls for a 3mm knitting needle, and I ended up using a 2.5 millimeter knitting needle. Although I always thought I knit really tightly, I guess not as tight as I thought, and with a 3mm, I thought my stitches were a little too loose, and I really liked much rather the way the 2.75mm sample looked like, and I felt like I still fit into the range with the positive ease that that size called for, so I knitted a size 2 for myself. And if you remember in my previous podcast, my only concern sort of with the pattern was the straps, because it just says cast on for your straps and all of that. So you cast on for the back strap, then the other side of the back strap, join it together, do the seam on the front, you cast this part on, and join together, and then join it around. But nowhere in the knitting pattern did I find a part where they say how to attach the back strap to the front strap. So I will pull up a picture here of how this looks on the back. I probably will insert the footage if I haven't done it already, and how the top looks like, because I don't want to stand up. It doesn't look, it's a little bit messy, and I cannot really show how nice this top actually really is. But yes, so my only concern was in the pattern there was nowhere a written instruction about how to attach the front and the back part of the strap. So in my previous knitting podcast, I got some suggestions about provisional cast on and so on. So as you will see, I did that for the second camisole, and I much rather like the look of it. So anyhow, so I inserted here a photo. You can see how I attached the strap, which actually falls a little bit behind your back. It's not right up to the shoulder, not in the middle, but the where the straps meet is actually kind of in your back, so my hair actually covers it up, so I don't mind it that much. Sorry if you hear meowing, I actually forgot to lock my cats up, so again, there are gonna be some cat noise. Maybe one of my cats appear in this video for the first time ever. I don't know. So as I said, the camisole is worked. I didn't say, but I indicated the camisole is worked from the top down. And as I said, you basically knit the straps and then join the front, the same thing for the back, and then join it around and knit it straight down. And it has a very beautiful folded hem. Knitting wise, it was relatively easy. I really like how the stitches look like on this. Even it stretches on a 2.75 millimeter. Even the stretched stitches look really neat, and it's absolutely not a see-through. It's relatively bra friendly, I would say, though I kind of have to block this. As I said, it's a little bit too tight in here, not so much so on the neck, but a bit too tight on my arm. And if you have seen my previous video, on the previous video when I did the first time the color, I picked up 10 stitches less than what the pattern called for. I literally just went follow the pattern instructions, so about follow the pattern instructions, and I thought I picked up enough stitches. In the end, I realized I picked up 10 less stitches than it called for, and I still thought it's okay. But when I finished and sewed down the neckline, the whole thing looked a little bit too tight, and also here you could see like gaps and holes, more like, I don't know, like the fabric was a little bit like pulled together because I didn't pick up enough stitches, so it looked like sort of like crumbled in a really ugly way. So I wasn't sure if I didn't do my increases right. Maybe I did a little bit too big of a holes when you increase. Sometimes that happens. So I undid the whole neckline or neckband and redid it, and I'm really happy with the final results of this. So now I picked up actually 10 stitches more than what the pattern called for, but as you can see, it doesn't look loose or anything because you knitted on a 2 millimeter as opposed to a 2.75 millimeter or 3 millimeter if you knitted it according to the instructions. So you're already using a smaller knitting needle size, and I would say don't really count your stitches. Go with what feels basically right. I followed the instructions anyways, but when it was too big of a gap, I ended up picking up a stitch there, extra stitch. So now I have, I think, 10 or 11 more stitches than what the pattern calls for. But I still think my neckline is really neat and really, really pretty. I don't feel it's too much, it's not loose. As you can see, it's perfectly sits on my neck. So I am actually really pleased with the second version of this neckline that I made. And in here, I followed the instructions and I actually went up in the needle size, actually not one, a couple of needle sizes to do my bind off. As I said, my bind off tend to be anyways very tight. So I ended up binding off with a 3 millimeter knitting needle, which is what the pattern called for. And I originally bind off with a 2 millimeter loosely, and that actually makes a huge difference. So I would follow the pattern, and don't be afraid, it's actually not too loose to bind off with a 3 millimeter. It actually gives you a really nice looser edge that when you fold back, you can easily, beautifully sew down according to the instruction. The instructions come with a video to sew this down. The video is not in English, but if you can follow sort of what they do, which is like easy, you can do that without a voice. So I just followed the sort of what I saw, and it's a very nice, neat finish. In the armholes, I did this again with a 2 millimeter knitting needle, and I bind up loosely with a 2 millimeter. So that's part of the reason why this feels a little bit more tight for sure. I can tell that the 3 millimeter bind off, even if it's a tight 3 millimeter versus a loose 2 millimeter bind off, it does make a difference. But I think after I block this, this will be perfectly okay. So overall, I'm really happy with the fit. As I said, I made the second size because that will give me the proper negative ease that the pattern called for. And if I insert a picture, you'll see I made it exactly the length. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I made it the length. I made 8 rows longer than what it was called for. I didn't want it so cropped. So yeah, mine is about 8 rows longer than what the patterns calls for. So that was actually my third modification. So I actually did some modifications. But yes, I'm overall very happy with this piece. And And that leads me to my next cast on, which is not that big of a surprise, but so it is my second Camisole No.9. Sorry, I just am in the middle of the row. This is my second Camisole No.9, and this is for my cousin. Again, I'm using Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, and I'm using it with the colorway Wheat that she picked out. I really am into this silk right now. I love it. And this is where we are at. Hers is one size up, so I'm knitting her the 3rd size. And here it is. So I made progress. It looks like she requested the same length as I do. She likes her tops a little bit more cropped than I do. So I'm just gonna double confirm that with her. But yes, so the length will be the same, so I'm on my way. But this needs to be done by Saturday because that's when my sister is flying home to take this gift with her. So I actually have to speed up. Today is Monday and I'm posting this video on Tuesday. So I'm not gonna show this as a finished object, only as a photo object in my next podcast. But as I said, I'm super happy with this. And now that I practiced on mine, I kind of know that I really want 2mm on the sort of neckline and armband. That's good. I'm really gonna bind up with a 3mm, which is what the pattern calls for. But I will not worry that much about picking up too many stitches. What I will worry about is picking up less stitches, which is what I did for my neckline, and it looks super ugly. And I'm glad I didn't think it's gonna block out. I'm really glad that I spent like extra 2 hours to undo it and redo it because the results are so much better. So I'm super happy with it. So if you pick up less stitches and you think you're gonna just make it, no, you won't. Just undo it before you go as far as I did and just do it. So I learned my lesson and I'm not gonna worry about too much. I'm gonna follow the pickup rate, but I'm picking up like, you know, if I see too big of a hole, I pick one up. So when I am pulling the stitches together, it's not that big of a gap. So yeah, I'm gonna keep on working. I think today I may make the neckline, the neckband, and tomorrow one arm, and then the other day the other arm, so I don't leave that for the last moment because it takes a little bit of a time to fiddle around with the 2mm and make a certain amount of rounds and then bind off and sew it down, but it's not as much time. People say it's very fiddly. I say it is a little bit, but it's very quick, and I like the finish because it's a very unique finish. The only modification I did again to this one is again on a 2.75mm needle, and this time I did a very beautiful provisional cast on, which is just indicated by where you see this string. And look how nicely I after that just picked up the stitches and continued for the front. So I suggest for everyone do a, I think I did, yes, a provisional crochet cast on, and just did my armband that way, I mean sort of net strap that way, and I'm super happy. I will insert here a side-by-side close photograph so you can see the difference how neat the provisional cast on looks like as opposed to mine. I'm not upset about mine, that's what I leave it anyways. As I said, my hair covers it up, but I actually learned my lesson on mine so I can do a much better job for my cousin and for my sister. And yeah, that's about that. So this is on its way, should be a finished object by Saturday. I mean, it has to be a finished object by Saturday because it's going home. So work in progress. And you will see the photograph, and if she sends me a photograph, I insert one when she's wearing it. And once I have all 3 of us, you know, all together and ready in our camisoles, I may insert a picture of the 3 of us wearing our 3 Camisole No.9s in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, 3 different colors that we each picked out that matches best our personalities. So yeah, I'm super happy. As I said, only modification is as of now the provisional cast on, and this is again on a 2.75mm instead of a 3 because I don't really like how loose the 3mm, the stitches looked on a 3mm knitting needle. So yeah, that led me to my new cast on, but it's like not so surprisingly new cast on simply because it is actually the same top as I'm wearing right now. And as I said, yes, these are the 3 colors we picked out. My cousin, my sister, and me. Okay, so let's move on to one project that got no work. And I'm sorry, it's a winter project. So that's why I was like, nope, I want to finish my camisoles. So this is the twist loop sweater by Other Loops. And I'm exactly there where I was at my last episode, which is I just inserted the cable sort of markers. I'm still upgrading to better markers because I really hate all of these. So I think I'm gonna continue as soon as I order some cable markers and like markers with some numbers so I know where I am, because this is super messy. So far I love this. I am using 2 kinds of yarns from my sort of shop. I'm using the Phil Merino 3.5 in a Podre or whatever colorway, and I'm using the mohair held double from the Phil mohair, which is again available in my shop, and the colorway is the same. So when you put it together, it gives you this really nice, beautiful colors. And I am again knitting size 2. And as you can see, I didn't go too far. It's a super warm project, which is by the time I'm gonna be done with this, it's gonna be time to wear it without a jacket, because it's already past August. So I'm looking forward working on this. I don't think it's gonna make too much progress for the next podcast, but it definitely will make some. So far the pattern is super easy to follow. It includes some short rows for your shaping of the back after you fold back your collar, and then you start putting in your markers for marking where your cables are. So I am right at my cable increases as of now, which is where I was. As I said 4 weeks ago, I made 0 progress on this, but I am planning on making more progress for the next 2 weeks, because I'm slowly gonna get to, this is gonna be my first sort of fall finished object, I believe, because I'm still working on my camisoles. But it actually feels really pleasant. The Feel mohair is actually a really good quality mohair, and the merino is actually a super soft, obviously 100% merino. It's a bit stretchy. I don't know how much it comes in the camera that it stretches, but it does. So I'm really happy to hold it with the mohair double, so that gives it a lot more structure. So I don't think it's gonna expand too much when I am washing it or blocking it. And although the pattern calls for a different type of yarn, actually let's see, I think, yeah, let's just see, but I think it was, yeah, I can't remember. But I remember I voted for the mohair because I wanted to make sure that it has enough structure, and I didn't want to mix up so many things. And as I said, this I had in my shop, so it was kind of obvious to just pick some nice color for the merino and try to match it with my mohair. At first I picked a different kind of mohair than my merino, and although they were both pink, I think they looked terrible together. So I ended up picking the same colorway, and I'm really happy. So the yarn should be merino wool, a silk mohair, and a cotton yarn, or a merino wool, silk mohair, and a wool and cotton combination. Oh no, sorry. Either 100% merino wool or 100% Shetland wool with the same mohair silk combo and wool cotton combo. So instead of the wool cotton, I picked another mohair, and I picked 100% merino wool, but from Fildar Not Unling, as the pattern calls for. but I really like the pattern. I really like the twisted loop in the front and on the shoulder details, not just shoulder details but the arm details. So I'm looking forward working on this for the next time, but as of now I really want to switch these to let's say you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers, and then the cable markers with numbers, because this actually really bothers me. So got no progress, but I'm gonna have more progress on it for next time. My other project that got a little bit of work on me is my giant blanket. Sorry for the sound. That I am knitting using brushed alpaca silk from Drops in the colorway Sage, which is I think 22, and Pearl Grey, which is 35. And I am knitting a blanket, if you remember, that is 50 inches by 60 inches. So I have about 300 stitches. I always forget. I'm knitting it in a very tiny knitting needle. I think this might just be a 1.75 millimeter. Yeah, I think it's either 2 or 1.75. So very thin knitting needle with 300 stitches. The stitches are divided into 4. So this is 1/4 and this is 3/4 of the stitches. So 225 and 75 stitches. And the plan was to make 1 inch progress a day, which is 10 rows. But I basically made 2.5 inches in 4 weeks, so that's very little progress. Here's my little progress keeper. This is all I made instead of the 8 inches that I'm supposed to. So this blanket although should be done, it's no rush because I mean it's a very warm blanket and there is no need for a very warm blanket for a while now. And when I measure this in total, the length is currently 29 inches. So I'm gonna move this up. So I have 31 more inches to go, and that is technically 31 inches, which is 31 days if I do 1 inch a day. So I think I'm gonna try to do that. Let's see if I can follow that pattern for 2 weeks and for 31 days, I hope, but let's just see if I can do that for the next 2 weeks. And I really love this color combination. It looks beautiful together. I'm using a seed stitch and I just, you know, switch the yarn and it creates this little line as you see when I'm switching it, but that's the back side of it. The front side of it is absolutely perfect and neat. I'm holding the yarn double to make it thick enough. I didn't want a see-through blanket. I'm really aiming for a warm blanket, and I think the yarn is perfectly suited for that purpose, so I'm super happy with that. What I can say is that I knitted this blanket 3 times before, and I never ordered enough yarn to actually complete the colors, and all of them, the sort of powder pink version, the rust version, and the steel blue version, which is the main color, all of them have stripes. So today I'm going to insert a picture here of, let's say, one of them, and you can see what happens when you don't order from the same dye lot. So all I can say is that this Drops alpaca silk definitely has a lot of variation in terms of the dye lot to dye lot within the same color. So if you knit with it, make sure you order enough yarn, which is, I forgot to order enough yarn first, but thankfully the seller had enough yarn from the same dye lot to send me, so it saved my blanket. When I ordered a couple of balls, 10 each for my pillows, because I'm making pillows as well, they arrived in a different dye lot. I will show you that, I guess right now, that makes sense. So here they are, giant bag, but it just has 10 and 10. And my plan is to make a 16-inch pillowcase. My pillows are 17 inches, but when you're working on pillows, you want your pillowcases to be much smaller than your pillow inserts, so it's kind of like tight at the edges. And here are my 2 different dye lots. So this is from my original blanket, and this is for my new one. And I don't think you can see any variations, but once I'm gonna knit this up, the variation may be more prevalent. And the plan with the pillows is that it's gonna be again the same, divided into four sort of sections. 1/4 gonna be pearl gray and 3/4 sage, and on the other one 1/4 sage and 3/4 pearl gray. So it's a little bit abstract or a little bit uneven, but it has like some order in the unevenness. I kind of don't like perfectly symmetrical things, so that's why the two pillows are a little bit different, but kind of the same. I'm gonna, not in the next 2 weeks I think, but after that I'm gonna cast on the pillows because I actually want to gift this. I may have to interrupt this, but just 1 second. So sorry for the interruption. I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to put these video pieces together. The interruption was unexpected, so I'm gonna do my best to match up the before and after. But what I wanted to say is that I don't really like perfect symmetry, so the pillows are a little bit different, but obviously quite similar, since they have the sort of similar pattern to each other and to the blanket. So I think it's gonna be a perfect match, but once I'm done, I'm gonna photograph it, and then you get to see it, how neat they look, even though they are not perfectly matched, but nearly perfectly matched. And in that photograph, you will be able to see whether or not the brushed alpaca in sage and pearl gray looks very different from two different dye lots. As I said, one dye lot is for the blanket and a completely different dye lot for the pillows. So once it's knitted up, you can actually see the difference. As you probably saw the difference if I put it up the previous blankets that I knitted, or one of the blankets where you can see the dye lot differences, and it comes out like stripes. So I'm expecting very similar differences between my pillow and my blanket as well. And let's go on to my next whip that actually got some work. Not too much, but I'm hoping this is gonna be my finished object that I'm wearing 2 weeks from now on. Let's see if I can untangle this. This is the pie camisole. Let me pull it up. I cast it on again a few weeks ago, but as I'm knitting so many things at once, and also since I didn't have that much time to knit recently, this got less work than I really wanted it. This is the pie camisole by the Creadia Studio, which I'm probably pronouncing it poorly, but I'm gonna put up the name and some nice photographs so you can see. And I got to the point of joining in around. I'm knitting again the size 2. It seems like I am size 2 for most things. And yes, I am knitting this on a 3mm. Nope, not this one. Nope, I'm knitting it on a 2.5mm. Ooh, tight. 2.5mm knitting needle, using Philadelphia Merino 3.5 in the Amanda colorway. And as you saw in my previous episode, I am in a green-blue phase, so this is actually a very beautiful greenish colorway. And the top is obviously worked. Sorry, it's on a very small circumference, so it looks way smaller than what it is, but it really does stretch out. So the top is worked top down. You make the back panel, the front panel, cast on extra stitches, and join it around. So I recently joined it around and probably made about 2 inches. I really love the color. And I'm right now into these camisoles that kind of come up and on your arm, but leave your arm out, as you will see in my next cast-ons. So I really like the color as well. And yes, I'm knitting size 2. It comes with a few inches of negative ease. And although the yarn suggestion was a yarn that I never heard about, Easy Care, and calls for a 2.5mm knitting needle, I substituted with this merino, which probably gonna stretch a little bit, but I will let you know. It's a bit stretchy, as I showed. It's the same merino as for my twisted loop top or twist loop top, so it does have a stretch, but I'm not expecting too much of a stretch. I need fairly tight, so I'm not expecting this to become really huge. So I'm using the same millimeter knitting needle, and I think I'm close to gauge. I think my gauge is a little bit tighter than what this is, but since the negative ease is a wide range on this top, I can't remember, let me see if I can pull it up. But since it's worn with quite a few centimeters of negative ease, actually 5 to 10 centimeters, which is 2 to 4 inches, that gives you a little bit of wiggle room. Even if you're off a stitch gauge, you can knit it on a smaller gauge. It's just gonna be, you know, a tiny bit smaller, not a big deal, I think. And since my gauge is tight enough, I mean stitches are tight enough, even if the fabric pulls, like you can see it here, it pulls a little bit, but it's not see through. It doesn't impact how the garment looks like. So I don't like it when it becomes see-through at one area and not so much so on the other, but I think I knit tight enough not for that not to happen. Same thing will go for this as well. And I fell in love with this camisole when I watched Hip Knit Hurry's knitting podcast, where she was wearing this in another color. I think that's knitting it for this project, or I am actually not sure, but I really love the way the top color looked like on the neck, like the neckband, and the way they attach the armband here, and the neckband goes kind of like in a half moon circle. So I really love that look and the simplicity of the top, so I basically cast it on right away. I feel that the merino gonna be definitely warmer than this silk, just by like even holding it. It's a lot warmer, but again, it's getting a little bit colder. By the time I'm done with it, it's gonna be mid-August or end of August, where the evenings are colder. And I also think that you can wear both of these tops at work, if you just get I don't know, a blazer and whatnot. So I think I'm gonna be able to wear this even later on when it gets a little bit colder, just with a blazer anyhow. So I'm really happy with this. So far the instructions are clear. It's literally you cast on and you start your increases joining around and knit straight down. So I'm at the knit straight down position already, or part already. What I am planning to do soon is to break into another ball, which I will definitely have to, and make the neckband, and then knit a little bit more and make the armbands, just like I'm planning for my other camisole number 9. I kind of don't like to leave those these parts at the very end. I kind of like to finish it with the top being done and just like literally cast off and the top is done. It just feels weird when you cast off and you still have to go back and do all of these. So I kind of like to finish that off and alternate between knitting in around already and doing these extra things. But I'm super happy. I love the stitch definition. This is definitely warm, but I'm looking forward wearing it 2 weeks from today. Excuse me. And my last new cast on is the Mixed Rib Cami by Florence Miller, or Handmade by Florence here online. Oh, sorry for the sound. And although last time I was convinced that I'm gonna make this top from the blue colorway, I actually decided to knit it from the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, but in the Palm Rose colorway. Which I wasn't sure what I'm gonna use it for exactly. I had a couple of tops that I decided to make more like camisoles and short sleeve tops, and I ordered enough yarn to cover them, but I wasn't sure which one I will use for which yarn. And Florence made this in a beautiful blue color, not the blue that I bought, but a different blue. And since blue is my favorite color, I was really tempted to make it in blue, but I decided to actually make it in this Palm Rose colorway, and I'm super happy with it. This is basically just the back, and you basically cast on and knit down until you have to start your increases. And this is just what I did. So it's basically the very beginning, and as you can see, it's called a Mixed Rib Cami because you have the mixed, the twisted stitches right here in these columns. And some people don't like to do twisted stitches. Since I do combination knitting, for me the twisted stitches are really easy because my stitches are basically twisted anyhow. So I basically untwist them, and here I don't have to untwist them. So the instructions are really simple and straightforward. I am knitting this again in the second size, and I think the pattern called for the merino from Knitting for Olive, but let's just see quickly. Mixed Rib Cami. It calls for a 3mm knitting needle and then the merino, and she did it in Dusty Aqua, which is a beautiful color, but I'm making it from Palm Rose, and I'm knitting it with the Pure Silk, and I'm again on a 2.75mm knitting needle, but I am basically on gauge or close to gauge, and this top again has negative ease, so it's okay if I'm a little bit knitting this tighter. Although I can see that when I pull this, it has a little bit of more gapiness than my other tops, but I think it's still not gonna be see-through. You see I'm pulling it, but if I put my hand, or not, if I put my hand in it, it's not so bad, so I think I'm gonna be all right. I really enjoy knitting it, and the instruction seems really straightforward. I don't think there's gonna be a finished object 2 weeks from today, but I really hope that it is a finished object 4 weeks from today, so I get some wear out of it. But then again, I think it depends on what environment do you work. I think this can be easily work appropriate. And as I said, I love working with the yarn, and so far the pattern is straightforward and absolutely beautiful, so I'm really happy. So as I said, I think I'm gonna finish my pie camisole from 2 weeks from today, and this one 4 weeks from today. And also I'm gonna finish my camisole number 9 for my cousin by Saturday. So by my next episode, I definitely will have 2 finished objects. One for sure, because the camisole gotta go. I mean, my camisole number 9 has to go, but I may have the other finished object, my pie camisole, so I get to have some wear out of it before the summer is completely over. But as I said, I think you can wear this in the office super easily, because it is, you just put a blazer on it and it's really neat and nice, and it's not see-through or nothing like too much. I think it's a really simple yet elevated top that I really like. And this leaves me with my last camisole that I only bought the pattern for, and I have the yarn for it. And this will be the last camisole I'm casting on because it's getting too cold, and I'm soon casting on my winter stuff or fall stuff. But this is the last camisole, and this is the City by Tory Yu. For whatever reason, I thought it's, oh sorry, the City Top by Tory Yu. And this is a relatively new pattern that I kind of fell in love with. It again has this high neckline. It looks a little bit deeper on the armhole, and I really wanted to try this. It calls for Moondrake Pika Pika. It's a merino silk and bramai, sorry, I don't know, yarn combination, and or a fingering weight yarn with some yarn suggestions and so on. So it's technically knitted on a 4mm knitting needle. I'm definitely knitting it either, not definitely. So here is my predicament. I really want to use my Knitting for Olive Pure Silk because I'm in my Pure Silk phase and I love this blue. Since the pattern calls for a 4mm knitting needle, I could technically hold this yarn double and use a 4mm, but that may make the top a little bit too thick. Or I can use a 2.75mm, see how much off gauge I am and size up accordingly. Technically I would be again the second size, but if I am very much off gauge, which I might be, 2.75 versus 4mm, that's a big difference, as opposed to when I switched from my camisole number 9 from a 3mm to a 2.75, that was only 0.25mm. This would be a 1.25mm switch. So the question is, what do you think I should be doing using a 4mm knitting needle and hold this yarn double, or using a 2.75 and hold this yarn single but size up in terms of the size. I'm very much tempted to do the second version. I don't want the top to be too warm, but then again, if I'm gonna wear it with a blazer, then it doesn't really matter. So I don't know. That's one of the reasons I didn't cast this on. The second reason, as I said, I was like busy with other things. But yes, I'm hoping to cast this on for next time for sure. But I'm waiting for the suggestions to hear what your thoughts and takes on. I never used this yarn double, hold double. I love it hold single. It's like feels cold but not cold for touch. I don't know. I really like it hold single, so I'm not sure. And the top is again the classic sort of you know, top down shirt with this really nice sort of, I think, twisted detail in the hair and on the side. It's relatively cropped. I think as I said, I knitted the Camisole No.9 9 rows longer. I don't know, I will see how cropped I want this to be. But I really liked the twisted rib detail on the side and on the sort of armband. That's the reason actually I picked this top. And as I said, I'm in my silk phase and my blue phase, so it's gonna be this beautiful ice blue colorway, and I can't wait. This is soft blue and this is ice blue, so a little bit more gray and a little bit more sky blue, but I'm looking forward casting this on and hopefully wearing it before the weather gets way too cold to do so. But here, even in Connecticut, even when the weather gets a little bit cold, we have like very nice warm Septembers, even Octobers, and then in the evening you just have to put up a sweater. So I probably can still wear these because they are not so cold, like warm-ish, especially my pie camisole with merino, and then in the evening I'm just gonna put on a sweater. So I am happy to still have a lot of wear out of it, and next year I'm gonna wear it. These not gonna go out of style. These are like really sort of classic yet simple camisoles with these beautiful color yarns. I didn't introduce any crazy color, not even this one is. This one is also a little bit of dusty color, which I like right now. I'm sort of into the dusty colors, aside from this one. This is not dusty, this is pretty shiny, and even though it's pink, it actually comes off as peach. But yes, I don't think these camisoles go out of style for next year, so I'm gonna have enough wear out of it next year, or wear them on my podcast while I am still knitting on my other things. But yeah, so I'm casting this on very soon, so if you can give me some suggestions, I would take it. 4mm knitting needle for this top, hold the yarn double, or 2.75, hold the yarn single but size up. I think I'm tempted to do the second. And I guess this is it for today. This is a little bit shorter episode because I didn't make enough progress on my loop sweater nor on my blanket, but I will do so for next time. And I really hope to make and film in about 2 weeks when I'm right now a little bit less busy. So I guess thank you for watching, and I will see you in 2 weeks.